It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you were with us here on this Friday. Plenty to get to here on the show. It is a Football Friday, right, Christian?
1,000%.
Football Friday. You have SoCon football, FCS football going on. Actually, week 2 already.
Why do you have to qualify, Kevin? Why do you just got to say football?
I'm just saying,
we have college
for folks
tomorrow.
that may not know, and I know BJ will echo that sentiment and say, look, if you don't know, that's your problem. But I mean, some people may not know FCS football is taking place right now, right? I mean, he's shaking his head.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. That's not qualifying it. That's saying what it is. I mean, if the SEC was playing this weekend, you say, hey, man,
you never say that when you go back on a Friday. You're like, hey, we got an SEC football this Saturday.
Well, the SEC's not playing in February right now.
FCS is. You say we have college football.
No, Christian, that's the point. When the SEC is part of a conglomerative schedule, you don't mention it. But if the SEC was playing in February, you would say, hey, we got SEC football this weekend.
Well, why can't you say we have Big South football too, Kevin?
Well, that's a different question.
Yeah, so why don't you just say we have college football?
Do we have Big South football this
do.
weekend? I thought Gardner Webb opted out of playing in the spring. So we have some of Big South football. But anyway, we'll get to that. Manning Snyder, SouthernPigskin.com will join us. We'll talk about the
telling me you're not amped for shorter at Kennesaw State? We had Roddy Jones on earlier this week, and pumped.
I am pumped. Owl Nation.
Hootie who?
I thought BJ was going to jump all over it, and he didn't.
No, Christian had it. Yeah, who?
I was waiting.
Mike Jones?
I was waiting for him to jump in there. Also, we will chat with Chris Tomito, 680 The Fan, and the Braves Radio Network, part of the pregame show there. Braves will be on air this weekend. We'll have it for you on Sunday afternoon, 1:05 first pitch. Braves and the Rays getting started there down in Grapefruit League play. So good to have some baseball back. We'll have it for you starting 12:55 on Sunday, 1:05 first pitch. And speaking of the Braves, BJ and Ben, Brian Snitker gets an extension today through the 2023 season, and we'll have a club option for the 2024 season added onto that. And man, you got to say, for a guy that was a Braves lifer, spent a lot of time in the minor leagues. I believe it was Freddie Gonzalez getting the old heave-ho there. Snitker comes in the interim role, and people say, well, it's an interim guy. The Braves did the right thing. And he's a franchise loyal guy. 40 years with the Braves. We'll let him take over. Clubhouse loves him. And since he took over, Braves have won 3 straight division titles, and the clubhouse does love him. The clubhouse, appreciates what he's doing. Had this team within 5 outs of the World Series. So I know people are like, well, I mean, those to me, BJ, are the guys that just want to gripe about every manager out there in what they do. But I mean, Brian Snitker, look, he's not the perfect manager, but I think he is a good, if not perfect fit for this Braves clubhouse. He lets guys be themselves, and it seems like guys play really well for him, and a good case can be made for not just Alex Anthopoulos, but guys that have come in here as free agents typically have found some success with Atlanta, and where they move on to go get big contracts elsewhere, they've come in and fit the bill for Atlanta.
A well-deserved extension. And you're right. You go back to the start of his tenure in Atlanta, and even though he was an organizational guy, it felt like, at least from the outside looking in, that a lot of people were saying, yeah, this is just kind of your bridge manager to get you to when you can do kind of a full comprehensive search and, bring in a more, I guess, established major league name. And then you started to see some momentum start to swell, and then there's an extension and another extension. And Brian Snitker's done a great job. I agree with you. There's always things you can nitpick about a manager, but he believes in his guys. He supports his guys. I still think about him just showing that great fire and passion and emotion and defending Ronald Acuna. Look, you're not going to come out here and throw time and time again at this guy. You're not going to endanger his health and put him at a risk for injury. I think he's a pure baseball guy. I think, like you said, he doesn't overthink it. He doesn't necessarily kind of incorporate some of the stats. And I love the stats, but there's something to be said for just going with your gut and letting guys grow, letting guys ebb and flow. I think he's had a good feel for the moment, a good feel for when to play guys, when to sit guys. So, Ben, I mean, the value of a coach-player relationship, but I think the guys like him. I think the guys rally around him, and I think this is a good thing.
It is a great thing. And the thing about Snitker is, a lot of time when you've been in an organization as long as he has, and you be thrust into the situation that he was in, he could have easily messed this up. You got a blend of young an old talent, you got a what? I mean, a generational talent, and a guy like Ronald Acuna Jr. I think Kevin, the one thing he did that a lot of people wouldn't do. I mean, being able to tell your young superstar, listen, I'm gonna need you to run out these outs. I'm gonna need you to go out there and show, max effort. A lot of guys in his position would have stayed away from that, but if Snit would have messed this up, it would have been, oh man, you see, he couldn't even win with these guys. They give him all this, but give Snit a lot of credit. You talk about a front office that was in shambles. You got two guys. One, Alex Anthopoulos, obviously he had a front office experience before, but then you talk about a guy like Snit, for which I don't know if this was on Snit's bucket list. He was quite content being in the organization, all those years, but to be able to win a division 3 years in a row when everybody's spending all this money around you, when you got to find a way to go out there and do it, quote, the Braves way now, Kevin and BJ, this interim thing usually is, okay, you're gonna just do this until we get the right guy in here. Well, he ain't break, it wasn't broke. So I think what Snit did, he said, look, I can go out here and show that I can go out here and manage these guys, being able to take all the experience I've had. So I'm very, very impressed with Snit to be able, because BJ and Kevin, we talk about that Braves chemistry, Snit has a lot to do with it. He has a whole lot to do with it to know, when do I make sure I tell a guy to get it going? When do I tell a guy you're going to have to play better? How do I go about, putting together this lineup of things of that nature? So, yeah, shout out to Snit, because, people talk about big shoes to fill. Bobby Cox has got some of the biggest shoes you ever going to try to fill when you talk about the Braves organization. And I'm not saying Snit is Bobby Cox. That is not what I'm saying.
He's got a little bit of a ways to go.
No. That is not what I'm saying. But, Kevin, you know this. If you were the manager of the freaking Braves, that name is going to come up all the time. That's who they're going to compare you to, even if there is no comparison. Sure. But for a 3-year run, Snit got to be up there as far as the type of things he's done. And did we say 5 outs away from going to the World Series? Yeah, Snit. I mean, he's more than deserving extension at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think if he wants to keep managing, the Braves keep him in that role. I think it's one of those things where I think he's in his 60s, maybe his late 60s. Mid 60s. I don't want to, somebody wants to look that up real quick, how old Brian Snitker is. But I mean, I think, again, kind of against that narrative of, we need a guy that, how many times you go with we're going to go with the Boone, the Aaron Boone. Why? Because he can relate to the players. We're going to get guys who are just out of the game. I mean, how many young guys? He's 65. Okay. How many young guys do the Braves have that are under 25 on this roster that love Brian Snitker, that he's able, BJ, to go out and maximize and get the most out of?
Yeah, I think it's a testament to kind of his penchant for development. This is a guy, given his role in previous years with the organization, who had worked a lot with young players, with players who were ascending but weren't quite where they want to be. And I think this is something that should affirm kind of the strength and the health of the Braves organization. You had a coaching change, a managerial change. You didn't necessarily, have to go out and get a retread. You were able to look within your organization. You were able to find a guy who knew the Braves culture. You were able to kind of turn to a guy who you could trust, who had a previous relationship, again, with some of the young players on the roster through his coaching stints in the minors. And I think it's just a really good story. A guy that, again, a lot of people, and I don't want to kind of belittle his start with Atlanta, with the Braves, but Kevin, unless I'm incorrectly remembering, it felt like a lot of people just said, yeah, let's kind of get through this wave with Snitker and then we'll find somebody else. And he has proved the doubters wrong. He's got the guys believing. He's got the Braves playing with confidence. He's got the Braves winning in the postseason. I mean, my heavens, sign him up. So I think this is a good move.
We've got a couple other things to hit here in the open with Kyrie Irving, I believe, saying the NBA should change its logo from Jerry West to Kobe. And I think we have audio from Jerry West saying back in 2017, like, okay, it's fine. No problem. We have that, Cody. We'll play it. Here's Jerry West from the jump in 2017 talking about just that.
I wish that had never gotten out that logo. I do. Really.
Right. It's the best nickname ever,
really
by
do.
the way.
And I've said it more than once. And, it's flattering if that's me. And I know it is me.
Yes.
But it is flattering. It's also, I think, if I were the NBA, I would be embarrassed about it. I really would.
Why?
Because I don't know. I just say, I don't like to do anything to call attention to myself. When people say that, that's just not who I am, period.
Wow.
And if they would want to change it, I wish they would. In many ways, I wish they would.
So there you go. That's Jerry West from 2017 saying if they want to change it, I don't care. In fact, go ahead. I hope they do change it. And Kyrie Irving saying, hey, it's got to happen. Don't care what anyone says. Black Kings built this league, end quote there from Kyrie Irving. Do you think the NBA will do it eventually?
Yeah, I think they will, and I think they should. I think Kyrie Irving's right. You think about the Black impact. I mean, on basketball, the Black Kings, to use his phrase, I think it'd be a great way to honor that legacy. Honor those pioneers, honor the league as a whole, and even beyond Jerry West's comments. And I certainly appreciate him saying that. I mean, Jerry West is the man. No one's going to think of him, any less or not appreciate his legacy. If he's no longer the logo, he's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the great players ever. And he's had a great run, I guess, whether he wanted it or not, as the logo. But you think about Kobe, what he's meant to the game. Obviously the tragedy. I think it'd be a really nice way to remember him, to honor him. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And Ben, you have the guy himself saying, yeah, let's move forward. It doesn't need to be me. This is a no-brainer.
Absolutely. Jerry West drafted Kobe Bryant. I think he was the guy that went out there and got Kobe Bryant. The whole thing about it, Jerry West says, look, man, I think it's cool. I think it's great. I know it's me. You know it's me. We need to move on from this. Nobody, and it's good that you got the co-sign of the guy who is the logo saying nobody's going to bat an eye if Kobe Bryant is the logo. I mean, I think it's cool that I get to walk around and say, hey, man, you the logo. Like, yeah, man, with Michael Jordan coming through this league and Karl Malone coming through this league and Hakeem Olajuwon and Shaq, I am the logo. Yeah, I think 2021, it might be time to move on to Kobe. I think that's the least that the NBA could do to honor his legacy.
Yeah, I think Michael Jordan's already got his own logo. He's doing it.
Yeah. Mike is pretty good. I mean,
hey, correct me if I'm wrong. If the NBA wanted Mike as the logo, they would have to pay a lot.
Oh yeah. They're like, you got the NBA online one. Tell Adam Silver, yeah, man, call my accountant. Don't call me.
Yeah. Just keep adding zeros until I tell you to stop, right? And then we might get there. We've got more to come here on 3 and Out. We will talk a little college football when we return. Some college quarterbacks. Manning Snyder will talk some SoCon football as they continue here into week 2 coming up in about 30 minutes. And we got some Braves baseball talk coming up in hour number 2 with Chris Domino. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We're streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, also live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube here this afternoon as well. So check out the show there as well. It's 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop. Glad you were with us on this Friday. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio, at Pigskin Radio. Again, we are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, also live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can follow the show along there as well, and you can send us your thoughts. We'll share them with you with us here on the show. But Bill Conley covers college football, ESPN.com, put out his list of the top 60 college quarterbacks of the 2000s. By 2000s, we're going 2004 till now. So not just the aughts as they say. So all the way up till now. Got Baker Mayfield number 1, BJ, ahead of Cam Newton to start off his list.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts before I dive into the top 10. First off, credit to Bill for doing this. When you do rankings like this, the only feedback you're going to get is negative feedback. It's going to be you stink, you're biased, you don't know what you're talking about. How did you forget about this guy? To rank the top 60 quarterbacks of the last 20 years, impossible. And I'm a big fan of Bill's work. This is very, very, very thoughtful, very thought-provoking, and amidst a sea of angst, I wanted to just say, hey, good job. This is a good list. I'm also a little perplexed, Kevin, and I need your help here. Very rarely do I go to you for kind of thematic clarification, but you know that I'm a best and greatest guy. I think best and greatest mean two different things. The title of this story, ranking college football's top 60 quarterbacks of the 2000s. So in your interpretation, is that kind of a hybrid of best and greatest?
I think top means top. But no, I would, if I say top quarterback, if you put it in that terms, I would feel like you would kind of fall along some kind of statistical measure as your main qualifier for making the list.
Okay. That's the kind of discussion that's stimulating to me, Ben. Look, for me, I wouldn't have Baker Mayfield number 1. I think he's in that tier 1. I think he's in that top category. But when I think about quarterbacks of this generation, my mind immediately goes to Lamar Jackson. My mind immediately goes to probably Tim Tebow, Joe Burrow, and Cam Newton. Those are probably the top guys. I know you played with VY the Legend, who's up there as well, certainly. And
for those who don't know the legend, I'm just Vince Young. So
no.
I'm just saying. I saw it across the scroll on the old web feed there. I'm like, somebody's VY the Legend. Vince Young.
That's what we call him because of Ben. When Ben brought him on the show, Ben. Are we not all allowed to call him VY the Legend?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to pull that out, he would love that VY the Legend. He like that ego stroke. Absolutely.
But Ben, for me to have Baker over Cam, over the Legend, over Tebow, over Burrow, and Lamar Jackson at 8, that's a little surprising to me.
The thing about it, when I look at this list, I mean, these guys got something to come. Baker won the Heisman, Cam won the Heisman, and obviously won the Natty. VY probably should have won the Heisman, won the Natty. Tebow Heisman Natty, Burrow Heisman Natty, Deshaun won the Natty. Kyler won the Heisman. Lamar won the Heisman. Mariota won the Heisman. RG3 won the Heisman. This list is fine, but this is where the disrespect comes. You start talking about what they meant. Like when I hear top BJ, I mean, all right, total performance, I get it. Matt Leinart is not in the top 10. How? He only played the national championships. He won a Heisman, and he was and he shared and he had a Heisman on his team. He's not in the top 10. Now, RG3. I think he should be in the top 10 because of how he played and where he played. Played at Baylor, a team that wasn't going to make the college football playoff. We seen Baylor and TCU just, you're not going to make it. But BJ, just how well he played. Marcus Mariota, I put him in the top 10. I mean, you look at what he meant for that Oregon team, and since he's left, they looking for that next. And I get that part. I ain't never seen nothing like Lamar Jackson. I mean, I was living in New Jersey at the time. And I'm like, okay. When they was like, yeah, man, this guy got 300 yards, 5 touchdowns in the first half. I'm like, what? So I get that. I think Kyler was better than Baker. I do. I mean, as much as I love Baker, it ain't too many guys on this list play the quarterback position better than Deshaun.
Let me clarify something a little here. He said he valued career success. Like if you had a great single season and you were kind of like right next to each other in terms of greatness over the last 20 years, then he took career success that's why Baker Mayfield's number one, because Oklahoma hadn't won a conference championship in a while, and he came in and won 3 straight as a starting quarterback, won the Heisman, set the efficiency record before Tua, I believe, came in and set it the year after him, and played in 2 college football playoff semifinals.
Yeah, and I mean, but I mean, my only counter to Baker, when you look back at, again, 20 years, and that of course includes the last 3-4 years. Of course, Baker Mayfield deserves to be a top tier guy. I don't think anybody's refuting that. But also, after he left, you could argue Kyler Murray was better than he was, and Jalen Hurts was better than he was. So it's hard for me to say he's the best quarterback in the last 20 years in college football when I'm not sure that he's the best quarterback of the last 3 years on his own team.
I do agree. Listen, the thing about Bill Connelly putting out a list like this, as you mentioned, BJ, people are going to be saying to themselves, how in the world did you leave this person off or leave that person off? I just think about certain guys that come to mind, and I'm thinking to myself, I keep on coming back to the Matt Leinart. I think that's a good point by Christian. They haven't won in a long time. This guy only played in national championships. That's all he played in. That's it. And almost did the 3-peat. You know who beat him? V.Y. the Legend. V.Y. the Legend is number 3. Well, that game had a lot to do with his legendary status. But, I like all these guys, though. Joe Burrow put together a season we haven't seen. Seen since, even though Cam Newton is being – Cam Newton, I don't know how much they're going to factor in what he did at Florida. But when you look at the season he had at Auburn, I get that part. But I just think that, when you talk about the top quarterbacks, and I look at how you played and who you played against. That's how I'm judging. We're gonna get to it down the line, BJ. But I'm gonna say this: people don't know Georgia quarterbacks on there. Because you don't
Aaron Murray was like the 50s or 40s.
No, he was 40. Aaron Murray was 40.
I'm just saying. The quarterback play as of late, as we talked about yesterday, has been phenomenal. The quarterback play the last 20 years. You could do a top 10 list every week about these quarterbacks, breaking down, what significant was of what they did and how they did. Because, as I know he didn't win the Heisman, but you talk about Cam was the second quarterback at Auburn to go undefeated. He just got to play in the national championship. Jason Campbell did not get to play in the national championship.
I would say the thing that makes what Cam did so impressive is I believe he's the only guy from that offense that took a snap in the NFL.
Yeah. Oh, and that's another thing we're going to get to later on.
Meanwhile, if you refer to Jason Campbell, he was turning around handed to one of the best duos of running backs ever.
Yeah, and that's probably another reason why Matt Leinart ain't on the top 10, because he had Lindell White and Reggie Bush. But yeah, this list is gonna have a lot of controversy attached to it. But I think BJ just brings up just how great the quarterback play is, because now there's gonna be another talking point. A quarterback walk around, what did Bill Connelly have you? Because he ranked me number 10. He ranked you outside of the top 10. But yeah, I do like the list though. I just think that the one thing this top 10 have in common, you either won a Natty, won a Heisman, or you did both. So, I can't really question nobody in the top 10.
Yeah, and for me, Kevin, when I think about top, my mind just immediately goes to Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. Certainly Cam as well. But I think Burrow and Jackson are unique in that they made us take stats for granted. Not long ago, a 300-yard passing game was a big deal. And for many programs, it's still a big deal. If you score 3 touchdowns in a game, that's impressive. Joe Burrow had 400 yards passing or whatever it was and 7 touchdowns in the first half of a college football playoff game. It's like that's something you do on a video game when you're playing on the easy level. Lamar Jackson, Ben, it's like you said, if Lamar Jackson had 400 total yards, we're like, that's an average game. He didn't have 550. He only had 400. That's not that good. Burrow and Jackson shaped our frame of reference. They were paradigm shifters. It's like they made numbers that used to be outrageous regular. I think if you're a quarterback and you throw for 270 yards and rush for 50 yards and people go, that's because of Lamar Jackson. That's because of Lamar Jackson. If you're a quarterback and you throw for 400 yards and 7 touchdowns and people go, that's because of Joe Burrow. So I think those guys, along with Cam, right there. Ben, I did want to ask you this just quickly. I think Rex, your quarterback, Rex Grossman, was like 28 or 29. He was in a group with a tier with like Colin Kaepernick, Ben Roethlisberger. I think there were, a few older guys kind of in the late 20s. Is that where you would put Rex Grossman?
As long as he's on the list. I mean, because the thing about it is I'm not gonna be biased towards Rex because of obviously I was blessed enough to play with him. I was blessed enough to play with the 18-year-old Chris Leak. I think he is super duper undervalued as far as like, because the thing is, I mean, you look at the numbers he ended up with. He had to share the wealth with a guy like Tim Tebow, but it's a lot of guys, BJ. I mean, you talk about the best. Or the top, I'm looking at what they did in the time that you talk about Colin Kaepernick. Pat White, people, look, he's not going to be on a top 10. When you talk about how great of a player he was, I mean, that's the guy. Graham Harrell. I used to like these guys when they came through. And you played according to the conference you was in. If you're in the Big 12, we don't play defense, throw the ball around, deal with it. Ain't nobody get mad at Baker Mayfield. You see what happened in the second half against Georgia when they took his number one receiver away? They lost. I'm just saying. But you got a lot of guys. A top 60 list is still pretty significant when you talk about how many quarterbacks that came through the last 20 years.
Certainly. We'll readdress this coming up a little bit later in the show as well. But certainly a wild list there from Bill Connelly. You can read that full list there at ESPN Plus on ESPN.com. We've got more to come here on 3 and Out. We'll talk a little SoCon football. BJ's fired up. You got the Citadel and Mercer coming up.
Fired up, Kevin.
Because BJ is SoCon football.
I think everyone's fired
BJ
up. BJ
is SoCon. Are you not? BJ, are you not?
You're the only one being disrespectful here today.
Well, the first one to fall in love with SoCon football. I know they're not in the SoCon anymore, but a certain somebody on the show grew up a huge Georgia Southern fan, which is interesting, given what happened when his alma mater played those guys.
That is true. Been looking around, not knowing what to say. We'll come back. We'll chat with Manning Snyder when we return. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop. Glad you are with us here on this Friday. Of course, we got college football this weekend. FCS football continuing on here to play in the spring, and a nice one there in the SoCon this week. Citadel is at Mercer coming up this Saturday afternoon, 3:30. Joining us here from Southern Pigskin to talk about that, Manning Snyder joins us. Manning, welcome to the show. How are you? Hey, doing good. And again, football in the spring. We're not talking about spring practice or a spring game coming up. This is games that count. Citadel Mercer this weekend. How big is this one early for both of these teams?
It's a huge game for both teams, especially for the Citadel. They start off the year 0-4 in the fall season. Played a really good cohort of teams, and Army and Clemson and West Point. But it was a big deal for the Citadel to get on the right track early, and Mercer will be an opportunity to do that. Mercer was 0-4, and there's 3 spring games and 3 fall games and 1 spring game, and it'll be a good opportunity for them to get on the right foot with whichever team wins.
And I was going to say, Manning, Citadel was one of the teams that played 4 games, as you mentioned, back in the fall. Can you draw anything from that moving to spring, or given that now you're playing a league schedule and you're not playing necessarily FBS foes, you're not playing who you played in the fall, is it kind of a reset for the Citadel?
Yeah, I think it's more of a reset. There's a new quarterback for the Citadel, quarterback Jalen Adams out of Tennessee. He was the backup to Brandon Rainey in the fall season, and it's going to be the same offense, a lot of the same defensive players, but with a new person under center. It's going to be a really important game for Adams to get his confidence up, and for the Citadel to get their confidence back as a team. I think if you ask anyone in the Citadel program, although there are some things to build upon in the fall, there are many reasons why you want to forget the fall season with the 0-4 start. However, I think that they're confident in their abilities to take on the Mercer squad that is also struggling a good bit. And I think that, what you would take away from the fall is just the continuity of great veterans that they have on their team and trying to get a lot of production out of them.
And Manny, how would you describe the mood? I mean, when you talk about the fact that these guys had to wait, I mean, I know that these guys have been doing their due diligence, dealing with the pandemic, and just, I just listened to the coach's direction. But how would you describe the mood? The football is finally back. It's going to be different because it is in the spring. But how would you describe the mood of this Citadel team?
I would say that their mood is very optimistic. I think Coach Thompson said about a week ago in his press conference that he thought some of the guys that were playing in the fall really didn't want to be there. They were there because they're on the team, but they didn't have their whole heart into it and didn't know for sure if this whole COVID situation would be a smart one to play football in. But now that they've had some time under their belt and the players are confident in the safety protocols in their team, I would say that the mood is optimistic, because I think that, with everyone back healthy and with a good mix of veterans and some up-and-coming players, that they think they're going to have a successful year and even draw on that success in the fall as well.
And again, this is a little bit different feel for him playing here in the spring. You said Citadel played a little bit in the fall. What is the kind of the mood around these teams as, again, they work through a season like none other here in the spring? Nothing but conference games. I asked my first question. He was like, hey, this is a big game, but I guess every game's a big game when all you're playing is conference games.
Well, I think what's also important to note here is that even though the 4 games in the fall were in the fall and they're almost way past 100 days ago, I think that the record is still in effect for the spring. And so Citadel right now is 0-4, and every win is going to be important for the spring, because not only will it build confidence for the rest of the team for the coming years, but right now they must win the SoCon to have any chance of making the FCS playoffs. And I think they know that and they understand that. And even with a 8-game winning streak and they sweep everyone in the SoCon, they'd still technically only be 8-4. And so every game's important, but starting off the year 0-4, the season is not going to be a very confident one yet until they get some wins under their belt.
The Bulldogs have one of the best players in the country, any level, in linebacker Willie Eubanks. Tell us about this guy and what makes him special.
Yeah, Willie Eubanks, he is a beast on and off the field. Coach Boucher of the strength and conditioning coach said he's one of the strongest guys he's ever worked with. And, he's a hard worker, and he really loves the Citadel program, really bought in. Coach Thompson said that there are some instances early in his career where he was getting looked at from other schools, some big-time programs in the FBS. He decided to stick with the Citadel and stick with the program and put in the work. And you're right, he is one of the the most electric players, if not in the FBS, even in the FCS. He leads the team in tackles, he leads the team in sacks, and he really dominates. He has a head on the ball regardless of what's happening, and even if he doesn't get the full tackle himself, he's usually the first person on the ball, either passing or throwing, and he's probably the most important piece to this Citadel offense, and he will have to have a very successful spring season for them to do well.
Another guy that's going to be asked upon, to go out there and really, really play well, a guy from our neck of the woods, Javante Middleton, the cornerback. Talk about him being able to go out there and kind of continue what he's starting in the fall, having his first career start against Clemson, and he's starting a new tradition up there in Citadel, wearing number 0.
Right, absolutely, and he is a very confident guy, and his ability is shown that he can really take any challenge that Citadel gives them and really thrive. His first start ever was against Clemson last year, and even though it wasn't the result Citadel wanted, he was the only player to force a turnover on the team, and he forced a fumble. And so I think that game gave him some confidence, and he was able to accept, I really belong here, I can do this. And knowing that, he's going to go into this spring with a lot of confidence. And you're right, you mentioned the number 0. He's the first Citadel Bulldog to wear number 0, as the NCAA approved that number as the military captain number for the Citadel this year. And so he will not only be wearing that number and representing himself, but he will also be representing the military college. And, as we all know him, there's no better guy to wear that number.
Manning, finally, when you look at Saturday's game in Macon, what's going to be the big key? What's going to determine who wins Saturday between the Bears and Bulldogs?
I think the biggest key will be time of possession. Obviously with a lot of triple option teams, dominating time possession is the most important thing. But with the Citadel, who played such tough teams in the fall, they weren't ever really able to get a rhythm behind them. And I think that if they can reduce their turnovers and dominate time possession, I think that they'll prevail on Saturday. But that being said, Mercer is also a very run dominant team, as they have some uncertainty at quarterback. And if they reduce turnovers and they can dominate the run game, it'll be tough for the Bulldogs to hang in there. But I think that regardless of what happens, I think if they can get some sort of routine and some plays that they had under the belt that they've been waiting to show off since the fall, I think that regardless of what happens, if it's a close game, there'll be some things that both teams can take away regardless of the result.
Manning Snyder, our guest here on 3 and Out. Manning, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys, and enjoy your weekend.
Hey, will do. And Manning Snyder joining us here of SouthernPigskin.com as you've got Citadel and Mercer coming up on Saturday. And as you said, I'm kind of strange that it would. So seeing they're so far apart, BJ, that the fall games going to count when trying to determine the FCS playoffs here when some teams played and some teams didn't.
Yeah, a lot of unique intricacies and a lot of things that are still kind of settling when you talk about the unprecedented landscape we're in with college football, especially as it pertains clearly to the teams that are playing right now in the spring in the FCS. But this is going to be a good game on Saturday. And I know a lot more potentially a lot more coverage, for some of these FCS programs, and maybe a chance to, be on a ESPN Plus or something like that. Check out Willie Eubanks. This young man is a dude. He's going to play in the NFL. And you think about the Citadel. I mean, the Citadel has had guys in the National Football League. Andre Roberts, who was with the Falcons, and has been he was a Pro Bowler last year, I think, as a return specialist.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the Citadel. I mean, Stump Mitchell, the legendary Stump Mitchell, out of the Citadel. Just countless names. That's a program with great tradition. But Willie Eubanks is going to play in the National Football League. He's a really, really good player. Also good to get some more perspective on Javante Middleton, Ben, who has really emerged in a leadership position. But that's going to be a good game on Saturday, and a big one, as Kevin mentioned.
Yeah, we've got more to come here on 3 and Out on this Friday afternoon, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. We're coming back with more all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here on this Friday. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, and Ben Troop. Glad you're with us all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network here on this Friday. College football coming up this weekend. Of course, high school basketball still going with the state tournament. Still got 2 or 3 teams left rolling here in the Savannah area, but obviously a little different here in 2020, 2021 with no fans. I think it's all home sites until the finals. So no like regional hosting when you get to the semifinals and things like we're kind of used to. So a little bit of basketball going on this weekend, and we'll see how many of our teams advance into to next week there as well.
Well, and every year, of course, the work that these student athletes put in to compete and hopefully have a chance at a state championship in the classroom, on the court, amazing. And the area, the Savannah area has such an incredible basketball history, tradition, reputation. But you think about the extra precautions that had to be put in place this year, the extra care, the extra just diligence. I mean, what you had to be aware of, what you had to go through to be able to play a team sport. So absolutely, huge shout out to all the teams left. And, Ben, I'm going to say it for you because you're going to want to say, look, the Low Country, the Coastal Empire, it's as good as it gets. That's the best basketball you're going to find anywhere in the country. And I know you count Swainsboro when we talk about, because they had a state title recently, right? Let's go ahead and say it.
Yeah, I mean, as recent as 2020. I don't know where y'all was at. Shout out to the 912. But them Tigers from Swainsboro, I think they still in it. Them Twins headed to North Carolina State in the fall. But yeah, BJ, I'm always listen. I am from the borough, but we keep it thorough. But I will say this: me, Kevin, and BJ were discussing certain things that happened to certain teams that was unfortunate. And I'm talking about them strikes. I'm talking about them refs. Listen, I get y'all guys. Y'all supposed to regulate the game, but don't take away the dream. Emotion is a part of it. And BJ and Kevin, y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all refs, y'all wrong for some of the stuff and some of the calls y'all made. I'm just saying. I mean, it's when we talk about high school athletics and going past the regular season. Well, that's where my book ends. I don't know nothing about that, but I know how prestigious it is. So
that's why it's so difficult. That's why, you say, look, getting to the playoffs is extremely difficult. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get there. It's only
I'm just saying, back when I was in school, we lost to the state champs in the regular season. I'm saying, not in the state championship game.
Understood. Speaking, I got to bring this up.
Yes,
something in the chat there for our show about your parents have mousetrap at the house. Like that is a throwback. Like I know we're talking about playoffs and all that, but like mousetrap, that like has a lot. You have to build something before you even play the game, and then the little net falls down. It's like, oh, sorry, you lose. I mean, you don't make games like that anymore because it's all on the digital side.
No, yeah, that requires an engineering degree to just put the game together. But no, I'm at my parents, and my mom was playing with my kids, and I went out to see what they were doing, and they have busted out like the treasure trove of old kids games. They have like Clue and Sorry and Candyland and
they don't got Operation.
They might have Operation, but when I went in there, they were literally playing or attempting to put together Mousetrap. So good luck with that.
Yeah, that does require a lot to get to. But Operation, the favorite old school game out there where, hey, if my kids were in charge, that guy's not getting out. I mean, it's just they don't even care. Like, hey, the object is to not touch the side. Oh, you mean like this? So, I mean, that poor guy is just not going to get out ever again. But we got plenty to get to. Well, he's not a real guy. He's like on cardboard. So I'm not saying he's going to die, but he's not going to make it. If the poor guy's fake leg is broke, he's done because they're not getting whatever. They're not getting the telephone out of the leg or whatever you got to get in Operation. Sorry. I didn't want to say die because he's not a real person. He's a piece of cardboard. Christian's all on this thing. I'm being insensitive to the Operation guy. We've got more to come. We'll move on here on 3 and Out. We'll hit take 3 on the flip side. Also, Chris Domino, 680 The Fan, will join us and the Braves Radio Network as we'll have Braves baseball for you coming up on Sunday afternoon. 12:55 with pregame coverage. First pitch at 1:05, and we will see Kyle Wright get the start for the Braves against the Tampa Bay Rays. Good to have some baseball back, and the countdown, of course, will be on to the regular season. Saw Freddie Freeman got in camp today after the birth of twins by his wife. He's got to do the check-in COVID testing, but should be good to go down the road. We'll come back. Hour 2's next. 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Welcome back. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com on your mobile device with the ESPN app. Also live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can catch the show happening right now on those locales as well. So good to have you with us. We'll hear from Chris Dimino, 680 The Fan, the Braves Radio Network, coming up in just a little bit as the Braves start spring training. We'll have Grapefruit League action for you on Sunday. First Braves Grapefruit League game there against the Tampa Bay Rays. So we'll talk some Braves baseball with him coming up in about 20 minutes. But first, let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, fellas, take 1 today would have been Johnny Cash's 89th birthday. What is your favorite Johnny Cash song?
All right. If y'all don't like this answer, y'all stuck with the question. I told y'all in the show meeting, I don't know any Johnny Cash songs. I didn't listen to him. I don't know.
I don't know. I was waiting on Kevin to cue it up. That's embarrassing. Now I was just waiting on Kevin to hit you. Now, I'm gonna say when I first saw this on the rundown, I was like this. Listen, man, this ain't my expertise. But I did go cheat a little bit. I will say this, Kevin. I want to know if this song "You Are My Sunshine" is that Johnny Cash?
You Are My Sunshine.
Yes.
I guess he covered that song.
I'm sorry.
You Are My Sunshine is kind of like one of those songs that's been around for forever.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying.
Guys, did he sing Happy Birthday too, Kevin?
Whoa. Hold on.
I don't know. Ben, I don't know.
The I Will Always Love You song by Whitney Houston, that was originally sung by Dolly Parton. But you can sing it more than once. I'm just saying, Kevin, this is your wheelhouse. Tell us some songs that if he's 89 years old, he might have been. Kevin, give us some Johnny Cash.
Folsom Prison Blues is like pretty pop. Like everybody's heard that song. Like I will say that there are artists where you'd be like, I don't know their songs, but you've heard them before. Like Johnny Cash is one of those where you'd be like, I'm not a Johnny Cash fan. I don't know his songs, but you've heard it. Like there's just certain artists out there where it's like, hey, I'm not necessarily a fan, but you've heard it. Folsom Prison Blues is one of those that's out there. My favorite one though probably is called One Piece at a Time. It's a great song. It's a story song. It's like it's about a guy. He wants a car, can't afford it. He happens to work at the auto factory, and so it's the whole song is about him taking it out one piece at a time, and eventually he builds himself his own car out of the stolen parts. It's a great tune.
Now, hold on. Now, don't Johnny Cash voice kind of sound like this? Don't he kind of sound like that? That's Johnny Cash?
No, Johnny Cash sounds like the man.
I hope not. I hope he doesn't sound like that.
You don't know how he sounds. I'm asking Kevin. Okay.
Yeah. Good stuff. Johnny Cash, the man. I like his stuff. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Johnny Cash fan in the world, but I like his music. I really
don't know Johnny Cash.
There are some people that are big into Johnny Cash.
I like Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
What's the name? What's the dude's name?
Johnny Paycheck. One wants a paycheck. One.
Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, that's a band. No, Kevin was telling me about some of the songs. Kevin was telling me about some of the songs in the show meeting, and he said, that song that's on commercials, I've Been Everywhere, Man. And I said, I thought that was Willie Nelson.
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Okay.
Johnny Cash.
Okay.
See, that's what I'm saying. You may not know the song, but you've heard him before.
But that's what I'm saying. If he's 89 years old, he probably knew the guy that invented the alphabet. Okay, cool.
What Chris is just shaking his head. Yeah, would have been 89. Not with us anymore, unfortunately. All right, take two. Who is your favorite QB to watch over the last 20 years? That's going back to Bill Connolly. Put up the top 60 quarterbacks since 2000. Who is your favorite to watch in that time? I didn't say best. It had to be just who did you enjoy watching? Who's your favorite?
Well, Christian's not going to like this. I'm still going to answer the question my own way, even though there's no best, greatest distinction. But I'm going to give you kind of the obvious answer, and then I'll give you a sleeper answer. Okay, dude, Lamar Jackson is mesmerizing. Everything he does is amazing. It's so smooth. It's so fluid. Now, I'm not necessarily, old producer Jim would show up in his jersey and would know what his course schedule was, and what day he had the 6 to 9 class. But I'm a big Lamar Jackson fan. Just watching him, he's so graceful, so proficient. But maybe a guy that's a little bit off the radar. I really enjoyed watching Connor Shaw when he was at South Carolina, and that's back when South Carolina had some squads too. I mean, they were working people, and I wanted to share this because his name doesn't immediately roll off the tongue when you think about players with the greatest seasons in SEC history. His 2013 season is up there. I don't care what anybody says. In 2013, Connor Shaw threw 24 touchdowns and 1 pick. That season, they beat number 24 Vanderbilt. That was a year when Vanderbilt was really good. They beat number 10 Central Florida. They beat number 5 Missouri. They beat number 8 Clemson, and they beat number 22 Wisconsin. I mean, that is a remarkable season. And in addition to his passing proficiency, he had almost 600 yards rushing. So shout out to the South Carolina legend, Connor Shaw.
For me, BJ, man, that same 2013 season is a dude by the name of Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel, 37 touchdowns, passing, 9 touchdowns rushing. But in 2012, 26 touchdown passes, 21 touchdown rushing. What I like the most about Johnny Football, he knew he was the truth. I mean, the money sign. The kid was so good that I don't know who allowed this, but somebody that's in charge of the billboard signs in Gainesville let a Texas A&M booster get a billboard sign in Gainesville. I don't know why they let that happen, but I'm just saying, for me, like you were saying with Connor Shaw, we know about Mike Evans and Texas A&M. You talk about them guys being in the SEC. This guy was about as electric as it get. I mean, yes, unorthodox in his way of playing, but beautiful to watch. Can make anything happen with his feet. Obviously, he won the Heisman. So for me, give me Johnny Football. That guy, you talk about electrifying, he lit it up.
All right, moving along. Take 3. I thought for sure Ben was going to say Tim Tebow, followed closely by Kyle Trask. We've
already talked about Kyle Trask. Y'all.
All right, moving along. Today is the 9th anniversary of Pete Weber, the bowler's famous "Who do you think you are? I am." Trash talk. What is the best trash talk line ever?
And Pete Weber was the bowler?
Yes.
Okay. For me, you think about trash talk, you think about college football, you think about Ben, your guy, you think about Steve Spurrier. And by the way, y'all are boys, man. Every time I'm with you, and this has happened a couple of times over the years, and we see Steve Spurrier, I mean, he's inviting you in the box. You're in there with the fam. Y'all are, you must have, I know you always say you put up your production with Zook, but you and Spurrier are tight. But listen, Spurrier's had some good one-liners, but to me,
That's right. Who do you think you are? I am.
There you go. That was Pete.
I've never heard that before. But when I think about Spurrier, I think about him with Tennessee saying you can't spell citrus without UT. And I'm like, my God, that's it. And here's the thing. Now, if Tennessee gets to the Citrus Bowl now, it's a pretty good bowl game. But, back when they were competing for national championships and trying to be right up there with Florida in the SEC East, Spurrier just said, nope, y'all are a notch below. Y'all are going to that Citrus Bowl. Can't spell citrus without UT.
Great trash talk. I remember when Kobe said, when he won the 5th ring, he said Barack tried to get in contact with him. He said, I would call him after the 5th ring. I remember when Shaq was like the Sacramento Queens. Yeah, write that down. Oh my goodness. I remember when Ray Lewis said, yeah, when they was asking about the rivalry with the Titans, he go, yeah, I used to beat up on the Titans all the time. He said, I used to beat up on Eddie George. Now they got a running back with 2 first names. I'm gonna beat the brakes off of him. You talking about Travis Henry? So they got a guy with 2 first names. I'm gonna beat the brakes off of him. And now listen. I'm going to put this in context, people. This is the best I ever heard. Titans had a receiver. I'm gonna say what his name is. And they had his offensive coordinator. They didn't get along, right? Offensive coordinators in the National Football League are very, 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 very blunt. He was yelling at the wide receiver, and I heard something I thought I would never hear on the sideline. The wide receiver looked at him and said, "You're gonna die soon," and he walked away. The offensive coordinator looks at the receivers coach and says, "You deal with it." Now, nothing happened. Nothing happened. But this is the thing, BJ. When you talk about You may call. I called it trash talking. He might was a little serious, but he said, "quote." He said, "Did I tell you you're gonna die soon?" What? So all I'm saying is sometimes we toe the line a little. I'm just saying, BJ, these are the things I've heard. Listen. These are the things I've heard. I'm just saying, BJ, look at me like, what is wrong with you?
All right, but dude, let me ask you about Spurrier because he has so many, Free Shoes University has so many great one-liners. I mean, was he just a walking, just smack talker, or
Yeah, he was. It was subtle, right? Like my freshman year. I'm getting used to college. Jesse Palmer, I knew nothing about the Gainesville Sun. Ain't nobody interviewing me. I'm just trying to figure things out. Jesse Palmer went to the Gainesville Sun and said, I'm going to start a quarterback on this team. I'm going to lead this team. I'm the starter. Coach Spurrier comes to the meeting room. He goes up. Yeah, everybody give it up for Jesse. Well, he's an idiot. What to say here? Say, oh, I'm going to lead this team. I'm the best player on this team. Wait, Jesse, we haven't played yet. I mean, I'm just saying. So it's always going to be things like that. I mean, BJ, and the thing about Spurrier, he didn't mean no harm, right? But this is his greatest one. This is Spurrier's greatest one. Benny, put you in the game. It's not our fault. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. It's our fault. We're done. We're done for thinking you're ready. But you don't have to worry about that no more because you will not embarrass me. You can embarrass your parents. You want to embarrass me. Go sit your ASS on that bench. I didn't even stand up. No. I said, why? He says, because I don't want to look and you be in my line of sight. So I'm just, and mind you, he's been saying that since Shane Matthews, Fred Taylor. If he puts you in the game and you mess up, he'll say, Benny, it's not your fault. It's our fault. Well, then you're ready. Now go park your ASS on that thing. That way you don't have to work. So I love Spurrier, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I play with guys like Ron Zook. I can't really say the type of trash talk he would say. It's not built for radio. But I'm just saying, BJ, Spurrier, you want to be laughing with him, not at him. Because I've been the butt of a lot of jokes when it comes to Spurrier. He goes, Benny, we weren't going to throw you the ball. But then I said, no, coach, don't talk. Don't. He said, save all the energy you need because you're going to be running today for embarrassing me on Saturday. It's all good.
It's called motivation.
How you park your ASS on that?
That's just motivation from the head ball coach.
Kevin, have you ever told one of your players that?
Yeah. That's take three. We'll come back. Chris Dimino, I'm just going to leave it alone. Take three. Chris Dimino joins us for Talking Braves Baseball next, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Welcome back, 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Group. Glad you are with us all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. You can join us. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio, at Pigskin Radio. We are efforting Chris Domino, 680 The Fan, and the Braves Radio Network. As again, he's on the pregame show as the Braves will be back in action on Sunday against the Tampa Bay Rays, opener of the Grapefruit League schedule. So while we await him, certainly this is a Braves team with questions just like everybody else has going into spring. And certainly seems the one that has come up this week is who is your everyday center fielder going to be, Christian Pache, or is Ender Inciarte going to take it to start with?
I mean, these questions about, depth charts and who's going to be in the lineup feels good to be talking like this. Glad that the Braves are here with the Snitker news and some of the recent, free agent signings, at least even guys to minor league deals. I think there's a lot of momentum beyond just back-to-back division champs. I think this is going to be a fun team. I think this is going to be a good team yet again. You guys know that I thought Ozuna re-signing, especially the deal the Braves got, just the exclamation point on what's been a great run. So I'm really excited and ready for this season. And I do think, Kevin, for me, Christian Pache, you go to him, you let him ride, and you see how the young man does.
We'll ask our next guest about this when he hops on here. He joins us now, 680 The Fan, the Atlanta Braves Radio Network. Chris Domino joins us here on 3 and Out. Chris, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. How about you?
We're doing fantastic. We'll have Braves baseball back on the radio this weekend, so we couldn't be much better. And certainly the question this week, as the Braves get ready, is center field. Where's that battle going to head? Is it Christian Pace's job to lose, or is it more up in the air than maybe people think?
I think it's his to lose. Although, listen, everybody knows that the guy who's done it and has got the back of the baseball card is going to be looked at. You're going to pay him $8 million on top of that and Ender Inciarte. So I don't think you want to make him believe that he's not going to be a part of this, especially if he's physically going to be a part of this. I think it's Pache's to lose. I think the way that maybe even the lineup sets up, and I'm kind of the belief that Pache might even hit ninth in this lineup if he is the center fielder to get a little bit of protection from Ronald Acuna. I think he showed enough last year, and it's only 22 at bats, and it's 4 for 22, and I get it. The robbing of the home run certainly made it look like he can handle the pressure of the game itself. But I think the Ender Inciarte thing is, if they showcase him a little bit, could they eat a little money even in a trade to get rid of him? I think it's Pache's job. I think the idea that you have a guy at a minimum, you want to give him as many ABs as you can, because he certainly looks like the guy at a minimum for next year. Let's get him ABs, and let's let him get comfortable with traveling with the baseball team as well.
How big of a spring is this going to be for Austin Riley? And is he feeling any pressure, you think?
Yeah, well, he should. Because, again, it's set up for him to be on this team. It's set up for him to be a starter because, my contention is when Freddie gets his extension, and I'll assume that he will, with Ozuna's money kicking up higher next year, with Ronald Acuna's money kicking up another $10 million, they're going to be looking for Pache and Austin Riley, guys who you're not paying a lot of money, the pitchers who you're not paying a lot of money to yet, to being a part of this thing. So I think, again, it's his job. Now you just got to prove that they're not supposed to go looking elsewhere. The $1 million for Jake Lamb, it's a nice insurance policy. If you think at 30 years old he can find a little something, and $1 million certainly is a number that's doable to have him be a backup corner guy. But I think it's Riley's job. He just has to prove that he's capable of not only winning it, not having a problem coming out of spring, but he's able to hold it. And my thing about those two guys, it's interesting that they're the first two guys you mentioned. With no DH, let's just say they hit 7th, 8th, and 9th. Riley, pitcher, Pache. There are going to be times when it's not going to be great. They're going to go through spells. What I'm looking for offensively from both of those guys is just be good enough where I'm not thinking really at any point this year that I'm not supposed to play. I don't need it to be. I'd like it to be better than that. But it's basically $1 million worth of two players. Play to the pay grade, play a little bit up above it, but don't have those slumps when both are going poorly with a pitcher where 1/3 of your lineup isn't going well enough where you have to shake it up. If you avoid that, then those guys are doing their job offensively.
Chris, obviously the Braves go out there and extend Brian Snitker. When you look at a guy, usually when a guy's in an organization, no matter what the league is, that's usually not a good thing, especially when they had interim next to their name. But when you look at this blend of young talent and old talent, different personalities, change the culture, deal with the pressure, it's got to feel good to know that they gave him his Ferrari and he didn't wreck it.
Yeah, it is a nice blend, and I think personality-wise, Marcell Ozuna coming back, and I talked to Walt Weiss this week, and I talked to Brian Snicker right after that deal was done, and Alex Anthopoulos. I think the mix is really good. Tony La Russa was the one that told me something when I was doing some work in St. Louis. He said, you can put perfume on a turd and it's still a turd. So people sort of confuse winning with being a good clubhouse and good chemistry, but it doesn't necessarily work that way. Is it because you're winning that people assume you have a good chemistry? Yeah. I can tell you flat out that according to everything that I was told for the entirety of last year, including all of the rules and protocols, this group really likes each other. And it's a good mix of veteran and younger where you have not only payroll disparities that could work to your favor for the next few years, but it's a group of guys that are competitive. One of the reasons Ozuna is absolutely back is because they like who he is in the clubhouse. And I think that's, at 30 years old, you have, and Freddie at 30 years old, I think you have guys that aren't aged who actually can relate to the young guys. And look, let's be honest, for a few years, there was this whole, if you had a couple of young guys on the team and they were a little bit vocal, they were a little bit brazen, they tossed their bats, they did things that pissed off veterans. That doesn't exist here. There's not one guy in this clubhouse who looks at the young guys having a good time and has a problem with it. So I think it's a good mix age-wise. I think it's a good mix payroll-wise. And I think it's a good mix personality-wise, kind of up and down the whole thing.
Chris Dimino joining us here on 3 and Out. And Chris, how do you look at this 2021 version as compared to last year? Obviously, it was a 60-game sprint. Is this the same team, no DH, set up to be a 162-game regular season team? Because had they had to play 102 more games, they probably wouldn't have made it last year.
Yeah, I don't know what they would have done. I can tell you this, that to me, the biggest question for everybody in baseball is if you had a good bullpen for 60, you better realize it's 162. If you had a bad bullpen and you weren't able to add pieces or arms that are viable, it's going to get more difficult. I don't think the Braves are immune. They have bodies in the bullpen, but they don't really have this side of Will Smith, a guy that you say, oh, here's our closer. So I think over 162, you might see a little bit of mix and a match, and if a guy can't go because he's gone 2 days in a row, maybe you're going to be equipped for that. You have lefties and righties, and that's good. But I think the 162 with no DH is a little bit of a check the merit. If you were putting a line down the middle of a piece of paper, does it benefit the Braves or does it not? No DH does not benefit the Braves. I don't think it kills them, but I don't think there's a check on the positive side. The bullpen, like everybody else, I'm a little bit nervous that you're going to ask guys to have to do it more often. And then when it comes to arms, Ian Anderson threw 32 innings last year. Everybody threw fewer innings. I asked a couple of guys, is there a possibility of a 6-man rotation? And there might be, because you don't want guys to have the jump in innings that absolutely is going to take place after a year of nobody really throwing a whole bunch of innings. 12 starts was really the tops. They're going to be really careful with that. So you might see a 6-starter, a 6-spot starter at times. So I think everybody has to deal with that. Maybe the Braves are more equipped as long as the young guys prove that last year was nothing fluky. They're capable of taking them out against anybody, including some aces in the National League and the NL East, and not bow down to them, not give away a game. And I'm telling you this, guys, 9-2 wins, 9-2 losses. I think they matter in baseball. When I'm down big in a game, I'm not burning anything. I kind of like the idea of if you're going to lose, there are costly losses. The 4-3 where you burn 4 guys out of the bullpen. 9-2, you don't have to do that. When you win 9-2, obviously it's even much better. Same thing. You get to do what you want with the bullpen. That's why your ability to score runs is going to be a big thing, because if you can shut teams down for 6 or 7 and do what you want with your bullpen, that's going to matter over the course of a long season this year.
And you mentioned the rotation depth, potentially, a 6-man rotation. How do you see kind of the back half of that? How do you handicap it 3, 4, or I guess better phrase 4, 5, potentially 6?
Yeah, and look, you don't want to do it if you're going to be giving away games. I'm not saying you want to do a pell-mell. I just think from an innings point of view, everybody has to think about it. I think the Tigers were maybe the first ones to talk about it. I asked because it's interesting that you want to control it 32, 33 starts for some guys really conducive after last year with not throwing a lot. The Drew Smiley is certainly the wild card. You paid him a lot of money, relatively speaking. They did this a few years ago. Remember, it was Bartolo Colon, Jaime Garcia, and R.A. Dickey. Those guys cost like $34 million for 1 year. Charlie Morton, I love. I'm on record as saying that Charlie Morton might be the biggest acquisition that anybody has in the National League. And it's a 1-year deal, and it's fair money. It's $15 million. But But I think Charlie Morton has the potential, as things go right during the regular season, coming into the middle of September, to be the difference maker. Giving Charlie Morton the ball, I mean, you guys tell me, are there 5 guys, 6 guys that you would hand the baseball to before Charlie Morton in a big game right now with what he's done in the last couple of years? I don't think so. So he could be the quietest big acquisition in the National League as long as the Braves do what they're supposed to do during the regular season. Smiley, I have no idea what you're going to get. But Ian Anderson, Bryce Wilson, maybe Sean Newcomb's out of it, although, nobody really just survives with 5 guys. Maybe Tuki Toussaint's going to be a part of it. I think those guys, if you're going to have swing starters, spot starters at some point, they're the ones that are likely going to be the guys that get the ball as long as they're stretched out. I like the rotation once Mike Soroka comes back. I really like the Morton acquisition. I think Morton, Fried, Soroka, and I'll throw in Ian Anderson if you're buying into what 32 innings showed you last year. I'm not saying they're the best in baseball, but I'll certainly go to bat with them for, if healthy, 32, 33 starts apiece, and I think they have a really good chance to be a postseason team.
And Chris, even sticking with Mike Soroka, obviously the Braves are going to take it slow with him. It's nice to see that he's recovering well, from that Achilles. When he does finally come back, how many games is it going to take to him kind of getting back to who we used to seeing on the mound?
I'm sorry, did you ask about Soroka?
Yeah, Soroka. How many games once he does come back? How many games do you think it's going to take for him to get back to being his old self?
Yeah, I like what he said about his arm is fine. His arm is a February arm now. It's just a matter of can he field the bunt? Can he run the bases? Can he do the things he's supposed to do? I think they'll err on the side of caution. This is where the no DH really stinks as well. I would tell Mike Soroka in his first few starts, let's say he's ready to go May 1st. He's really ready to take the mound and compete on May 1st. He misses the month of April. You sort of spot start to cover that. I don't think it's going to take long. I don't like the idea of a guy like this being on the bases. It's why the stupidity of the DH, and it's had a stupid legacy in history. It got even dumber this year because there's not a team that wants pitchers hitting. There's not a team that wants to put a pitcher on second base and ask him to cut a corner at third. I really don't like it when I got a guy coming off an Achilles. I know the odds are you don't hurt it again. I just don't like the idea of him being anywhere where he's got to do things other than, throw a baseball. If it's May 1st, I think everybody would be happy. I really do. If he passes every test he has to, it's not going to be because of his arm. He's not a meathead, as he said in the press conference the other day. He's being smart with his body. He thinks his arm is ready to go. If I get 27, 28 starts out of Mike Soroka, again, I think you have enough coverage to make sure that that's going to be viable for you.
Chris Dimino, 680 The Fan, the Braves Radio Network. We'll have Braves baseball for you on Sunday as the Braves take on the Rays in their first Grapefruit League game of the season. Chris, appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
All right, guys, listen, enjoy what's going to come up over the next handful of weeks before we get ready for the big stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we appreciate him joining us here on the show. Again, good to have baseball back this weekend. And again, BJ, this is Grapefruit League game number 1. So when when Kyle Wright goes 1 or 2 innings and maybe gives up a run or two, it's not the end of the world, all right?
Of course it's the end of the world. What are you talking about? Like, spring training is the perfect time to overreact to any and everything. But I will say this, you and I have a tendency to disagree sometimes about sports. I've long agreed with you about baseball, top prospects, and just kind of letting them absorb the ebb and flow that's inevitable. One thing that's kind of driven me crazy, I think the Braves have done a mostly good job, but we overreact, talking about spring. When you're a young baseball player in a sport where it's really hard to be consistent, you're going to have a stretch where you only get 1 hit in 2 weeks. You're going to have a stretch where you're really, really good. I tend to think, with all due respect to Ender Inciarte, who I think can be a bench piece, Christian Pache needs to be your center fielder. Austin Riley needs to be your third baseman, and you need to give them a season to see what you have. And if they underwhelm or they're just devastating, crushing your lineup, then you can make a change. But how can you make a decision for the future? How can you think about contracts? How can you evaluate options when you don't know what you have? It's time to put those guys in, let them play, and see what the results may be.
Sure, people forget Austin Riley played in the outfield last year. He didn't even play third base a lot. So I agree with you, BJ. I think this is a year for the Braves. And I know everybody's saying, well, if you're in a position to compete, you don't have time to mess around. But I do think with the upside, I mean, Christian Pache is your top prospect in your organization right now. He's still classified as a prospect. I mean, I think you owe it to at least see what he could do and not say, hey, we'll give it 2 weeks, and if you stink, then we'll wait for another day. I mean, I think those guys get better by playing every day, and we'll see how it goes. And again, I think it's one sport, and maybe football is a little different than basketball. I think baseball is one sport where you can't really throw an evaluation out on one game, because anybody in a 1 game or even a 3 game scenario, you can look at and say, oh, that guy stinks. Well, I mean, everybody's going to have a 3 game spread, as you said, BJ, where they don't look particularly good. So to me, baseball is so much more like, hey, we're not talking days and games. We're talking like months that you need to see this guy not get it done before you're ready to sit there and say he can't do it.
We'll see. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I do think baseball is unique, because if a guy pitcher goes out there, BJ has a great debut, Kevin will be like, it's all right, let's pump the brakes. That's 1 game. Then he does it again. All right. And then the 3rd game, he stinks. See, it's like baseball is like, how do we judge the failures? Because you're going to fail, but I'm still looking forward to watching Austin Riley. I mean, I read something where he was saying, I'm just working on my consistency. I want to be able to play 162 games to where my teammates can depend on me. That's when you're becoming a pro. When you start answering questions about what I want to mean to my team and not what I want to do individually, that's when the guys are starting to realize, like, as great as I am individually, it means nothing if my teammates can depend on me. Austin Riley has played everything but pitch and catch him. Leave him at third base. Let him go out there and work on his game.
Well, I mean, and again, you're right. I think that's the thing is baseball it's a sport of failure, man. It's how you adjust to that. Like even the good pitchers on average, if you consider letting a guy on base failure, they're going to fail once an inning. If you're elite, on average, you're going to fail once an inning. If you're if you're elite, 70% of the time you're a bum, right? I mean, that's just the percentages. 70% of the time you're not going to get the job done. If you do better than 30%, you're a Hall of Famer at the end of the day. We've got more to come. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live at ESPNCoastal.com. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you're with us here on this Friday. Plenty to come in the final hour of the program. We'll take another look at the Braves. They get ready to start it off on Sunday, their first Grapefruit League game of the year. Also, we'll look at Bill Connolly's list of the top college quarterbacks since 2000. So he'll join us, and we'll do a little football picking on a Friday.
Bill Connolly's going to join us?
He's not going to join us. I apologize.
I was about to say, did you pull something? Dang.
I did get sideways. No, then we'll pick some football. It is a football Friday here on the show, so we'll pick a little college football coming up towards the end.
Why does it got to be little
well.
College football, Kevin?
I didn't say little college football.
You just said we got to pick
I said we will pick a little college football.
That's disrespectful.
Not the little college football. Words mean things, right, BJ?
Wow.
You know, I love the fact that some of my kind of old viewpoints are starting to become ingrained.
I'm very hypocritical with that because I only pull that out when it suits my cause. That's really the time I use.
Kevin, you've offered perspective on what top means today. You just hit Christian with the words mean things. I mean, this is great.
Yeah, but top really, I don't know if that goes with, best or great. It's just, it could be anything. I think top was like, hey, he's the top quarterback in the NCAA. Probably means he's thrown for the most yards. That's the way I would read that. But anyway, that's
the whole beauty of my argument is that everybody can interpret that distinction differently.
That being said, producer Christian has come to us with a new idea for the show. He wants to throw some sound of the week, some of the best moments that we have been able to muster here on 3 and Out during the week.
Yeah, I think Friday is a good time for reflection, a good time for us to look back on what was a wild week. Kevin wasn't on the show yesterday, so there's some stuff that he missed. But, I mean, we just fly through these shows 3 hours at a time and don't necessarily readdress some of the bigger moments from the show. And there was some truly great audio, I thought, this week. Kevin didn't let me use the one I wanted to use. We can talk about that after the show. But let's start, Cody, with Roddy Jones, right? Because Mike Griffith last week had an interesting take where he said Georgia should drop Georgia Tech from their rivalry and make it Clemson every year. And we asked Roddy Jones, who is a former Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket who beat Georgia in Athens in 2008, I believe, was the year that they did that with him and John Dwyer and that crew. So we asked Roddy Jones his thoughts about Georgia dropping Georgia Tech from the schedule.
It's cute. I mean, sure. Like, yeah, let's throw that out there. I think it just shows a complete and utter disrespect for what the rivalry is. Like, you can be cute and say, hey, Georgia is more competitive with Clemson. It shouldn't play Tech anymore. But, like, do you have any respect for college football? I know Georgia and Clemson used to play forever, but if you have respect for the game and if you really want to cherish what college football is, you don't even joke about getting rid of those rivalries. The fact that they didn't play last year is a travesty. Like, it's completely ridiculous. The fact that Clemson and South Carolina didn't play last year is completely ridiculous. It could have been done. It should have been done because instead of playing South Carolina or instead of playing Georgia, you play UCF, and I can't even remember who Clemson played in the non-conference. But like, I don't pay any attention to it because it's just somebody trying to get attention. I don't know who Mike is. I don't know Mike. But to joke about getting rid of the rivalry game, the rivalry in your state, I think it's just a complete disservice. Like, you don't do that just because a team is going through a downslope. Because what if the tables are turned? Like, Georgia's riding high now, but what if Georgia Tech starts riding high and Georgia's going through a tough time? Like, you want Georgia Tech fans joking, hey, we should get rid of Georgia and start playing Alabama? Like, get out of here, man. Sorry. You caught me off guard with it. It's just completely disrespectful to what college football is and to what the rivalry is. It flows to it. I get it. So it's ridiculous.
So that was Roddy Jones earlier this week. Obviously talking about the assertion that Georgia should drop Georgia Tech off the schedule, play Clemson every year.
I love the rivalries, and he's right talking about the rivalries. And I mean, Ben, again, Georgia fans don't want to hear this. You were a part of a rivalry where it was very lopsided for about 2 decades. I mean, very lopsided. But regardless of what the score is, you're talking about part of the tradition that makes college football unique and special. Yeah, Georgia's had great success against Georgia Tech recently. Georgia Tech's got a more recent national championship. So, I mean, that's something to think about. But I think games like those are absolutely just critical to college football, the history, the tradition, the pageantry, the passion.
You heard Roddy, right? Roddy was like, that's cute. Roddy said, listen, I can't say what I want to say.
Roddy Jones.
Out after dark.
Yeah, I know that Roddy White was a part of the Georgia Tech rivalry. All right, we got to do these next.
All right,
two,
here we go. What else you got
relatively quickly? Let's just do the mayo sour cream take, Cody, from BJ.
Sour cream is a cousin of mayonnaise. Sour cream and mayonnaise are related.
Kevin,
no
you
way.
can't react.
I don't know what that was in regards to.
Talk about putting on chili, and he said he didn't even want sour cream near the bowl.
Well, who's putting mayo in chili?
Well, no, he's just saying he doesn't like mayonnaise, doesn't like sour.
Kevin, do you eat mayo out the jar?
Well, do you look?
You eat mayo out the jar because you have to.
Right. But anyway, we all know BJ's wrong. We can agree on that.
Yes.
Next one. This one should get you fired up heading into the final hour. We asked Ben what his motivating speeches were. BJ, I don't know if you were on the show when he did this, but I mean, Cody and I were ready to run through a wall after Ben dropped this one.
It's Christian. I mean, at a certain point, right? Great teams are made up of great teammates first and great players second. I had a coach once tell me that if you want to be a great teammate first, you got a chance of being a great player second. So, I mean, my coach told me you've earned the distinction of a great teammate. So then I was like, what you gonna say to him? And I say, hey, fellas, we a hell of a team. That's a hell of a coach. That's a hell of a coaching staff. That's a hell of a fan base. We represent a hell of a university. That team we playing need to know what hell feels like. I said, let's give them hell.
You got the studio fired up again, Ben.
I mean, listen.
But in a sense, he's asking me that right there. Like I'm sitting there looking at him like, so what you gonna say? And I'm looking around, I'm like this. Heart beating or whatever. So, I mean, I'm just saying, you got to earn that distinction, though. Everybody think you can stand in front of the team and talk that talk till it's time to walk their walk. And I'm like, I could have turned around and go, hey, fellas, listen, fellas. No, it's like, hey, I mean, you work as hard as you work. You do think you're a hell of a team. You do think you got a hell of a coaching staff. And you represent a hell of a school, hell of a fan base. That team right there, man, they got dreams. We should be tonight, man. Let's go give them hell. Welcome to hell, a.k.a. the swamp. Just saying.
Were you
BJ,
BJ?
BJ, what would you say? What would you say to your team if you was running? You had to say something to them.
I say, look, I don't care. I'm not going to play anyway. Y'all do whatever y'all want to do.
You would say, how do you do, fellow footballers?
No, the mayonnaise sour cream audio. You clipped out my explanation. But Ben, well done.
No, that is literally directly from the show.
Yeah, you said they are the cousins. You said
Right.
they're cousins through marriage.
Right.
No, they're not related. They're not even from the same state. They don't even know each other.
They're cousins through marriage. But no, Ben, you're a motivational speaker, man. For folks who don't know, that's the power of Ben Troop.
We got more to come. 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you're with us. Final hour right around the corner. We'll talk some Braves baseball as the Braves down in South Florida. Their first game coming up on Sunday in Grapefruit League play. We'll look to see how they perform coming out of the weekend. Of course, no Freddie Freeman for at least a little bit. Some thoughts that he might miss a week or so of the Grapefruit League schedule, but not worried about that as his wife gave birth to twins not long ago. So the future first baseman in the Freeman household are starting to mount up. That's, I think, 3 boys for Freddie and his wife.
I mean, Kevin, you got 2. I mean, that's
a lot. That's a lot of testosterone at times. I don't know how my wife does it because that's a lot of guys running around, a lot of smelly clothes and all that kind of stuff.
Hey man, listen, I do agree. Freddie Free as long as Freddie Free and dealing with no injuries, Kevin, we good over here.
Yeah, somebody said he can miss all of spring training. It's fine. He'll be ready to go. We'll be ready to go for the final hour right around the corner. We'll talk some Braves baseball. We'll talk some college football. Hey, we're going to pick some college football in the final hour of the show as well. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We're streaming live ESPNcoastal.com on your mobile device with the ESPN app. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Good to have you along here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Glad you're with us here for the final hour of the show. A lot to get to. We'll look at Bill Connolly's quarterback list. Who maybe got snubbed? Who should have been higher on that list than they were? We'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. Well, also, it is Friday. Pick some football. Yes, pick some football coming up in just a little bit. So looking forward to that as well. But the Braves are back this weekend. We'll have it for you Sunday afternoon. 1:05 first pitch with the Grapefruit League opener for the Braves. It will be Kyle Wright getting the start, but obviously that starts the watch of now we start to collect some data, some stats, if you will, to either overreact to or overanalyze about who's doing what with this Braves team. So what are you watching over the next month as we count it down? The opening day is April 1, so I think the last Grapefruit League game is the 28th or 29th of March. So exactly a month worth of games to evaluate what's the biggest storyline you're watching here, BJ, as they get started.
I'm looking for momentum that matters. And I do think that depending upon your resume, we should interpret what happens differently. And Ben, I know you've said in the NFL, training camp, boy, all eyes are on you when you're a rookie, when you're a first-year player. If you've been in the league, man, 9 or 10 years, or you've established yourself as an elite player, it's not the same. You know, we were joking about it at the end of last hour. If Freddie Freeman doesn't take it at bat in spring training, I don't care. It's Freddie Freeman. He just won the MVP. He's awesome every year. He's a consummate pro. He's going to be great. And I largely feel the same way about Ronald Acuna. I think sometimes our expectations for him are so insane that when he has a month where he hits like 272, we all go, oh, Ronald, what's wrong? But Ronald Acuna is going to hit for power. He's going to hit for a good average. He's going to be elite defensively. He's going to be elite on the base pass. I'm not worried about him. I'm not worried about Marcell Ozuna. And to me, I don't think there's a huge difference even this season between Marcell Ozuna hitting 250 and Marcell Ozuna hitting 270. You didn't bring Marcell Ozuna, to squeeze seeing eye singles through the left side of the infield. Marcell Ozuna's job is to mash, and that's what he did last year. And I don't need him trying to swing for the fences in spring training to tweak a bat. I don't care. Now, I do think some of this stuff matters both psychologically for the player and kind of from an affirming standpoint from Snitker and kind of the staff. You need Austin Riley to do a little something. I think you need Christian Pache to do a little something. Everybody else, I'm kind of cool with whatever, to be honest. I mean, Kevin, I really am.
Well, no, that's serious. What if somebody Dan Ugglas the Grapefruit League season?
Okay, well, who do you mean by somebody?
Well, pick a guy that you think that's. Austin Riley. What if Austin Riley?
Yeah, that would be
the Grapefruit League season and hits 170.
Extremely concerning. That's what I'm getting at. If Freddie Freeman hits 170, Ben, I don't care. If Ronald Acuna hits 170, I don't care. If Austin Riley hits 170, that's not good for his confidence. He is taking at bats in the spring to try to be productive. That's not a good reflection of where his rhythm is. And I think the same thing for Pache, but I'll even say between those two guys, I think the guy under the most pressure, and Chris Domino talked about it, is Austin Riley. Christian Pache is essentially a rookie, and he is elite defensively already. I think Austin Riley's good defensively. Christian Pache is elite. So if he hits 225 in the season, I think you can deal with that. If Austin Riley is not hitting for power, that's a major concern. And Ben, at least if Pache struggles, I know people like to kind of nitpick him and downplay him, but you can go to a Gold Glove center fielder, a veteran, and Ender Inciarte. If Austin Riley struggles, I'm not sure what the long-term answer is.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, it's like we was talking in the previous segment. I mean, it's how do you deal with the failures? I mean, you talk about a guy like Austin Riley. He's on a team that, I mean, when you look at what a guy like Ronald Acuna Jr. does at the plate, BJ, he's comfortable, but he's also aggressive. The thing about Austin Riley is how he came on the scene. Now the pitchers go, "Hey man, okay, you the man right now. We don't know what pitches you can hit, but once they figured out what he cannot hit and he swings at a lot of pitches, okay, we're gonna go after him." Kevin, I mean, correct me if I'm not. If you look at the fact that when it comes to sports, especially baseball, at that plate, you need to be comfortable. Because they're supposed to come at you with what you don't do well. You have to prove that you can hit those pitches. And Austin the one said, I want to play 162 games. Also the one that came out and said, I need to develop a routine, which develops my rhythm, because I don't want to be a good player on a great team. I want to say, hey man, I got the ability to be great too. I mean, we talk about Marcel, talk about Acuna, we talk about Freddie Freeman, talk about Austin. If you get a guy like Austin Riley, he can start mashing. And BJ, he develops that, being comfortable at the plate. That only makes the Braves more dangerous. That only makes him more consistent. And when you are comfortable, that means that I don't have to work. When I'm comfortable, that means that now my talent can really shine. I mean, Kevin, and like I said, I'm just going off what Austin said. We know he's got to be an everyday third baseman. But just like Marcel, I mean, Austin is going to be known for what he does at the plate as well.
Sure, and I think there are outliers at spring, and I think some things you take with a grain of salt. Like, BJ, they're not going to throw you what you can't hit in spring training most of the time because they want to save that for when it matters. They want you to be overconfident, and then you break off something. I mean, Greg Maddux used to, I think, had a great story talking about that where he's like, yeah, I let a guy take me deep in spring training. He goes, that way he thinks he can get me. And then when he comes to the season, he's like, he ain't seeing that. He's not seeing that in a real game. So I think some of the things you see at spring training can be, over-exaggerated one way or another. But that's why I think I always said, to BJ's point, the only things that I think really concern me are the outliers and usually the negative outliers. I mean, if a guy hits 600 in spring training, I think we all know, like, okay, that's not going to last, and that's nothing. But I think the negative outliers, hey, this dude's ERA in spring is 75. Okay, that's probably an indication he's not pitching very well or even close. Same with Austin Riley. And I did think it was kind of interesting when we talked about looking at the center field situation, BJ, where I don't know if you guys took it this way, but it seemed like Chris was kind of intimating like, hey, the Braves may even have to have a fake competition in center field so nobody gets comfortable and or Ender Inciarte feels like he's a part of the team and he has a shot. I mean, do you see it that way? I mean, is it a fake? Is it Christian Pache and it's like, hey, we're gonna have a fake. We're gonna go out there and every couple of days or so we'll hear Brian Snitker go, oh man, both guys are really putting forth effort. Now we'll see how it's going to come right down to it. Or is that all fake? And it's like we already know who the guy is unless he hits 076. That's going to be out there in center field 9 days out of 10.
I don't know that it's fake. Because fake means there's like no chance at all. Like it doesn't exist, the possibility of a secondary outcome. I think it's real with rigidity, right?
But that's not right.
But no. I think it is real because I think that's like the thing about pro sports. It's the game within the game. You're supposed to play mind games. There are certain guys like Ronald, Ozzie, Freddie Freed, Marcel. We get that part. But if you Christian Pache, BJ, yeah, you read the paper, you know what people saying, you know what you can do. The greatest thing for an elite athlete is to have another elite athlete chasing you. That way, hey man, what you dive for balls in the grave? Because man, I know what it's like. I'm gonna go that extra mile. That's what I enjoy the most about pro sports is nobody is comfortable, even if your spot is legit. Like I can't lose my spot. Well, do you play like you can't lose your spot? No, I play like a joker to trying to make the squad. Because that resonates. So I think a healthy competition is good because it makes it so that because you don't want nobody on the team saying, look, man, I mean, I know I got my spot, which I know most of the guys in the pros don't do that. I played with Derek Brooks and I used to be like, dude, I used to ask him, man, you running kind of fast out there, right? He goes, I can't live off who I used to be. And I remember that he's like, yeah, I've done some things, right? You talking about Derek Brooks when we won the Super Bowl, right? That's 2002. We ain't been back to the playoffs since. So that's why you do that competition. That's why Snitker go, oh yeah, both of them look good. But behind the scenes, he'll be like, Christian, yeah, I need you to. Because think about it. He already told Acuna, you need to run. You need to run it out.
But what I'm getting at by kind of the real with rigidity is I think there are kind of some set parameters. Like Kevin, you mentioned, unless there's a dramatic outlier, like if Pache hits anywhere between 180 and above, or 180, 300, if we want to be realistic, he's going to be the guy. Now, if he hits 040, that would be where kind of you have that loophole where I think Ender Inciarte, you would have to turn to him and say, dude, and listen, I think Ender's earned that. I mean, he's been a good pro. This is a guy that has milestones on his career, that has earned his stripes at the major league level. He's earned a chance to go out there and fight for the starting job. But Kevin, I really wonder how many jobs are being fought for. I mean, even with the pitching staff, and maybe you could place a spot here or there in the bullpen, kind of in the up for grabs category. But I really don't care about much of the pitching production either. I mean, if Max Fried struggles, I would take that as that's Max Fried working on something that he's not confident in. If Charlie Morton struggles, I don't care. He's 37 years old and he's had 10 plus great years of Major League Baseball. Even if guys like Ian Anderson and them struggle, dude, I've seen Ian Anderson mow cats down in the playoffs. I'm not worried if he gives up a 2-run blast to number 74, in his fourth pitch. I mean, maybe a bullpen guy or two, Kevin, maybe Will Smith, but I'm really not worried about a ton out of the pitching staff.
Whoa. Because I need to know this right now. Who are you going to be when the games matter, BJ? Because I need to know who I'm dealing with. Am I going to get that, oh, my God, did you see how they looked against the Phillies? Or am I going to – because Kevin was talking you off a ledge 2 years ago.
No. This is what I'm getting at. In the regular season, I will be on edge. I will be a train wreck in the regular season. But in spring training, listen, can we embrace – Ben, you often say this. Can we embrace that I'm not going to say our team because we are objective members of the media. Can we embrace that the Braves are good? It's like we're looking at spring training going,
no.
There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to worry about.
I will say this. Kevin used to be very even keeled. Then you started coming in with your Kevin like, BJ won't let me enjoy it. Like, I know they playing well, and BJ go, yeah, but I mean, once again, they until proven otherwise, they are the best team after the 8th inning. They can be down by 6 and win by 1, and they can be up by 7 and lose by 1. I just hope they. But at the same time, BJ, I just want to know now who you think you're gonna be. Got Marcel back. Soroka's gonna be back. I mean, who you think you're gonna be come the regular season? Optimistic BJ or just BJ?
Oh, I like how you phrase that. Well done.
A new guy or just the same guy?
I will probably just be myself would be my guess.
Okay. Papa B gonna let us know who he is because he's probably watching old Braves games right now yelling at the TV.
My dad is the worst, Kevin. Like I don't know if you're like that, but Freddie Freeman will go 1 for 4, and my dad's like, he's overpaid. He's overpaid. I'm going, Dad, what are you talking about? My dad cannot handle it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ride you can't ride the highs and lows like that every day. You'll drive yourself nuts. But no, I mean, I think some of this stuff we won't know. Closer, unless you're just bent on Will Smith. I mean, you don't actually start closing games until late in spring training. Like the closer comes in the 5th inning. I mean, there's no pressure-packed situation. And even if it is the end of spring training, it's closing down a spring training game in March is not the same as when it actually counts, right? I mean, you have that mentality of I want to go out here and perform, but it's it's not the same as, hey, we're in DC playing the Nationals. It's the 2nd week of the season. We need this dub. Go get it. Not, hey, go out there and see if we got tea times coming up in just a little. It's not,
all right, Ben,
it's not quite the same.
Don't lie. After your first year, how did you approach training camp?
Like spring football and college football, I'm ready to get it over with because the whole thing about it. Well, no, let me say this. I didn't want to play in spring games. Like I want to coach to be like, hey Ben, listen, saw you limping a little bit. We're not gonna let you play in the spring game. I mean, because the thing about it is, I mean, I love football, but preseason is being in love with football. No, we dating again. I mean, we broke up in the off season. Now we trying to get back together because BJ, you go out there and ball for nothing. Hey, boy, you were killing them boys in the. I know. And then start off the season with no. They had players that literally would say, "Don't throw me the ball," in the preseason. I didn't get that LaDainian Thompson status to where they'll go, "Hey, LaDainian, you down in the preseason games? You're gonna let you go out there and show us you got that?" No, I had to go out there and get it. And then once we got Norm Child, he was like, "Come on, fellas, man, you got to love this game." I'm like, "Oh, there he go." I said, "Why don't you pull your pants down with all that deodorant on them? You the high waist." So I'm just saying, I had to deal with a lot. So I had some mixed emotions when it comes to the preseason.
It's about getting your reps in and making sure you're ready to go when it counts. Certainly for real. We've got more to come here on this Friday. It's 3 and Out. We will have Braves baseball for you on Sunday, 12:55 pregame, 1:05 first pitch as the Braves get back and rolling here in Grapefruit League action. We'll talk a little college football when we return. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Welcome back. It's 3 and Out here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Glad you were with us. Back hour number 1, we talked about Bill Connolly's list. He put out ESPN Plus. You can read that entire story, but put out his top 60 college football quarterbacks of the 2000s. Baker Mayfield, number 1 on that list. Cam, 2. Vince Young, Tebow, Burrow, the top 5. Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Mariota, and RG3, your top 10. I was going to leave it at that just to get those out there. But that's your top 10 on Bill Connolly's list. Anybody egregiously not in the top 10? I mean, you start thinking about all the great ones. And we've said this a bunch, BJ, when people start talking about, like, who are the GOATs in the NBA? Who's your top 10? I'm like, well, you get to 6 real quick. Like, and people start thinking about, how did this guy get left off? Well, I mean, when you start just going with some of the no-brainers, like, you can get to 7 or 8 without even thinking about it. And then it becomes, hey, who gets in and who doesn't? But anybody not, in your opinion, in the top 10 that maybe egregiously should have been?
I was a little surprised, like Ben, Matt Leinart out of SC, and I know he had a lot of great talent around him, but so did many guys on this list. A little surprised that you didn't see Matt Leinart at least closer to the top 10. A good argument can be made. He should be a top 10 quarterback when you talk about the best of the last 20 years. I mean, the national championship standard, the proficiency, the touchdown passes, week in and week out, great play on the big stage. I thought Jameis Winston was a little low. Maybe you could sneak him into the top 10. I think he was like 15 or 16 on the list, a couple of spots ahead of Leinart. But to me, the guy that is really underrated is a guy that's in the top 10. Lamar Jackson at 8. And Kevin, you are right. You are right. In our mind, we think player X, they got to be top 5. But boy, these legends stack up quick. I mean, the guys that are in that top 10 are all-time greats. I mean, VY the legend, Tim Tebow, Cam, Joe, one-name guys. But I think about Lamar Jackson just changing the way we interpret statistical production. I mean, if Lamar Jackson, during the height of his career, had 400 total yards and 4 touchdowns, that was a letdown. That was a letdown. If you're sitting with your buddies on the couch watching, Georgia or whatever, and they pop in and say, hey, Lamar Jackson threw for 297 yards and ran for 86 and a win over Syracuse, you're looking going, that's it? When that would be one of the greatest games like ever, not that long ago. So I think guys that change the status quo, guys that paradigm shift, guys that force us to reevaluate what we know and trust, that's why I look at Lamar. I mean, Joe Burrow's like that, but I think he's very he's in the top 5. So outside of the top 10, maybe Leinart for me, but inside the top 10, I just think Lamar Jackson's got to be closer to that top spot.
I mean, 2 guys that if they were in the top 10, I mean, I do agree, BJ, everything you said about Lamar Jackson. I think about his impact, his influence on the game and the school that he was at. I mean, I know he followed in Teddy Bridgewater steps, but when you look at the fact, I think he's the youngest ever Heisman to win the Heisman, but I think 2 guys that we ain't talking about enough. I know we keep talking about Baker Mayfield. Sam Bradford's pretty good at Oklahoma too, man. I mean, we forget how great of a player he was. And we talking about VY the legend. What about Colt McCoy the legend? If Ndamukong Suh don't knock him out, who knows what, in that game, BJ, I just think that the top 10 is always going to be the one to where we start like nitpicking because so many guys were so good for so long. And I just think that when you look at that recency type stuff, I like Baker Mayfield. I ain't taking nothing away from him. But if you talk about Kyler Murray, come right behind him, and Jalen Hurts comes right behind him. We've seen Joe Burrow was able to, come around during the time. If Tua was in the top 10, I would not be mad. When you talk about what he done for the passing game in the SEC at Alabama, like where you did it, it's just important that you did it. But this list is going to be crazy no matter what. I mean, the guy who didn't win no Heisman, but as far as quarterback play, I want to check out Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers could play when he was in college. Russell Wilson did it at 2 schools, mind you, when you talk about guys doing that now. So, yeah, I do think that Lamar Jackson, though, doesn't get enough credit because, one, he wasn't going to win the national championship. But just like a Cam Newton, I don't know how many guys on that offense, BJ, with him even got a combine invite, let alone
that's the point. I mean, we were talking about these top 10 quarterbacks earlier, and you look at it on the face, and you say, yeah, these guys were great quarterbacks, but Cam, Lamar Jackson, RG3, they're probably 3 of the guys in the top 10 who on their roster, was their roster even good enough to do some of the things that they did? I mean, RG3 was a great quarterback. Baylor was out of control, but was Baylor loaded with NFL talent? Was Louisville loaded with NFL talent? And don't get me wrong, they had good players around them, but certainly not to the level. I mean, Joe Burrow, half of his team got drafted into the NFL seemingly. That started. Deshaun Watson was on a team that was recruiting in the top 5 each and every year. Tim Tebow, I mean, just look at the guys on those teams that went to the NFL alone. Baker Mayfield. I mean, Cam, as Ben said, there wasn't hardly anybody that ended up with even a combine invite or a camp invite off of that team. Lamar Jackson was doing things and had Louisville in the top 10. You're going, he was clearly the best player far and away and didn't have a lot of, and RG3 the same way. Everybody else, Mariota, even at Oregon, top 5 team in NCAA football. Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, all of these teams loaded with potential NFL players. Those other 3 guys had to do it all or their team was not going to win, period.
It's a great point, and I think that's one of the ultimate validators for Cam Newton. Not that he needs any validation. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, but you got to have some nuance with the numbers. And not only did you do it in the SEC, and I'm sorry, more years than not, that's different. And people don't like hearing that. I know people think that the media blows up the SEC is better argument and kind of inflates it. But dude, look at the NFL draft. Look at the recruiting rankings. Every metric we have to measure kind of ability and talent is gushing, glowingly positive about the SEC. And you did it without a star receiver. I know Michael Dyer had a stretch, but without, necessarily multiple star running backs. And then I do look at Lamar Jackson. Look at what happened to Louisville after he left. You fell off. And I know producer Jim used to reference that, he's not producer. Jim Johnson used to reference that, I'm going to see him like 30 years from now and say, producer Jim, but, Louisville's wide receivers had some really high drop rates, which directly impacted Lamar Jackson's completion percentage. So I think you have to absolutely take things like that into account. And Ben, just because you account for a relative lack of production around a guy doesn't mean that you have to necessarily detract from a lot of talent benefiting a guy. I mean, a lot of great players have played with great players. There's no negativity in that, but I do think you can kind of account for a supporting cast with respect to the great players that may help a Joe Burrow or a Tua Tagovailoa. You can sort of do both when you rank and file greatness.
That's why I think that Jameis Winston should be in the top 10 list. Jameis Winston lost 1 game in college football. People are going to talk about how many picks he threw his second year. With Deshaun Watson threw a lot of picks, but I judge guys on the biggest stages. Deshaun Watson was the best player on the field 2 years in a row in the national championship. He won the second one, lost the first one. Jameis Winston had his worst game ever in the college football playoff against Marcus Mariota in Oregon. That does not take away the fact that he was the one that brought it all together, even though they had a loaded squad. But, BJ, like I said, when you talk about quarterback play, some of these guys are never, ever going to get the credit they deserve because they match up against a VY. A Cam, a Lamar, a guy that's not going to be in the top 10. And obviously, I knew about him more with what he did in the pros than what he did in college. You talking about, and BG talking about greatest and best. Colin Kaepernick was phenomenal in college. Like
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I'm just saying, over 10,000 yards passing. He had over 4,000 yards rushing and over 50 touchdowns, in rushing. So I just think that this is what Bill Connelly really did. He goes, listen, I'm going to start these debates with these quarterbacks. He put his out this week. It's going to be somebody else next week, the top 10 Heisman's of all time, the top 10. But I ain't going to go crazy over the top 10 list. All those guys are deserving. But you can have a total different list, BJ, with 10 total different names that you could justify all of them.
And again, an interesting list. You can check it out there. ESPN Plus, Bill Connelly put it together of the top 60 quarterbacks since 2000, of the 2000s, not since 2000 till now. We've got more to come here on 3 Out, including probably the segment that BJ has been waiting for all week long. We are picking football. Yes, picking football because we have some on Saturday. SoCon football. We're picking football next. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It's 3 and Out on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. If you missed any portion of the show, ESPNCoastal.com. You can go to Apple Podcasts, also Spotify, also YouTube. We have the show up there every day. You can check out all that you missed here on 3 and Out. It is a football Friday, BJ. I know you're excited about that because that means, one, we got to pick games. It's one thing. But two, we got some SoCon football, which SouthernPigskin.com. Great job covering the SoCon there. And they are playing this weekend in week 2 already. So, shall we get right to it?
Yeah, and I'm not even going to lie to you guys. This is both incredibly irresponsible and wonderfully responsible. I've been working on a Furman story during the show, during the breaks, because I'm obviously focused and engaged in the conversation while we're on the air. But yes, let's get to it. I'm ready.
Could be stat Googling while we're doing the show, possibly as well. But no, so some football this week for you to check out. Wofford is a 2.5-point favorite at Chattanooga. That would be, as Dan Mullen said, famously, Nick Fitzgerald, UT Chattanooga. So we'd be out for Mississippi State.
Chattanooga, yeah. And Chattanooga, their game with VMI in kind of the opening week had to be postponed or canceled because of the COVID situation. But I think that this is a really good test for Wofford. Wofford was the preseason favorite per the league coaches. Furman was the preseason favorite per the league media. But Wofford has been kind of the SoCon standard for much of the last decade. And Mike Ayers was their coach for 30 years, literally, and they were a national fixture. Coach Conklin has come in and has done a really, really nice job kind of maintaining that success. Chattanooga is a good team that is capable. I think they meet the talent threshold, Ben. But I think Wofford right now, the way they're running the football, to me, they are one of the top teams nationally. I think they win and probably win by 7 to 10 points.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, OBJ, you do know that Wofford want to come in with that run of the attack. Chattanooga probably does have more talent. I just think that it's going to come down to the line of scrimmage. I think that's going to definitely favor Wofford. But I think that when you look at what Chattanooga wants to do offensively, they can keep her. That's the only way going to keep them in this game. So for me, Chattanooga's looking down the road saying, look, man, we got to keep pace with them boys from Furman, BJ. We can't let them boys get too many games out ahead of us. Wofford beat up on Mercer last week. But I'm going to go with them boys from Chattanooga. Whoa. I'm just saying, BJ, early. Look, Wofford is coming off that high, beating the team. Chattanooga, like, look at them. They feeling themselves. I think I'm gonna go with Chattanooga. BJ, I'm used to being wrong. Listen, I'm like Deion Sanders. Don't take my picks to the
wait. Are you just trying to impress T.O. here?
Ain't nobody trying to impress but T.O. If you are watching, holler at your boy, man. I mean, that's Kevin Thomas. I'm being true. That's BJ Bennett. I'll put you in first ballot Hall of Fame. If I had to vote, I'll put you in first ballot.
Randy Sanders was awfully high on his team when we had him on a couple weeks ago. But again, Wofford, the league favorite, playing really, really well. Give me the Terriers there. Western Carolina is at Samford. Chris Hatcher's bunch over a 2-touchdown favorite here.
Yeah, and Western Carolina's rebuilding. They really struggled in week 1 against Furman. Had just over, I think, 100 total yards and gave up well over 300 yards rushing. I think Samford, although they lost in week 1, really controlled a good bit of the game against ETSU and showed that they can be potent offensively and I think equally effective defensively with run defense and pass defense. I think Samford wins and covers, plays well. Western Carolina probably is going to have some tough Saturdays unless they can figure things out. So yeah, your guy Chris Hatcher, of course, former Georgia Southern Valdosta State head coach. Samford, the Dogs, they win this one big.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Western Carolina try to make a game of it, BJ. But listen, Samford, you already know what they're gonna do. They're gonna light up the scoreboard. But the one thing about it is this, man. This Samford team is obviously gonna try to beat. They're gonna try to come out there and try to outclass them Western Carolina boys. I'm not picking Western Carolina, by the way. I do think Samford covers, but it should be a more compelling game than people give it credit for. I don't like them 21 point, point lines or whatever. I don't like when you disrespecting them boys.
Well, you don't have to like it, but it's going to happen.
I don't like it. Well, I'm only really saying that because when my boys from Florida was 24-point favorites against LSU, we lost. So I don't like lines like that. Sorry.
Yeah, I understand that. No, Samford's going to win this one going away, as you said. Western Carolina trying to rebuild. Furman, speaking of heavily favored, 21-point favorite at VMI.
Yeah, and Furman's good. Furman's a well balanced team. They run the football. Devin Wynn and those guys. They are going to. They're gonna average 7-8 yards a pop, and good luck trying to stop it. Clay Hendricks, head coach at Furman, was with Air Force for a while, and they run that scheme that is just, you know what's coming, but you can't stop it. Now, I do think VMI is one of these interesting teams because their quarterback, Reese Yadinsky, is going to throw that thing all over the place. And Christian mentioned this in a story that he wrote on Southern Pigskin. Reese Yadinsky is going to have an interesting year because he is, as the SoCon's leading returning passer, he's one of the most prolific quarterbacks in the country. He is going to play this spring for VMI. He has already announced he's going to grad transfer in the fall to Maryland. So he's going to play a full schedule for VMI here in the spring and potentially a full schedule for Maryland in the fall. So that young man's going to have a lot of football, really good player, may even have an outside shot at the pros. He'll score, but I think Furman's going to run the football. It will. Maybe they don't cover. Because there's an element to the unknown about VMI. VMI did not play in the fall. We have not seen VMI since November of 2019. So who knows, but Furman will win this game. Could be a little closer than people think.
Yeah, I do think Furman is going to win. That VMI offense, BJ, is going to be special. That VMI defense will not be. And the thing about it is, at a certain point, you're going to have to be able to stop somebody. I like VMI, but I like Furman more. Give me them Furman boys.
Yeah, I think Furman covers. Again, BJ, they were expected to be one of the dominant teams in the league, and when you have a chance to do that, you go out and take care of business with a team that's obviously trying to rebuild a little bit there at VMI. Game of the week in the SoCon, it's the Citadel and Mercer. That one's going to be in Macon. Who do you like in this one, the Bulldogs or the Bears?
Yeah, great game. I encourage folks to check out all these games, all these FCS and SoCon games, but this is the one to circle this weekend. And from our area, 13, 12, or 13, 9-1-2 guys playing in this game. So just a tremendous showcase from high school football talent out of the coastal Georgia, South Georgia, low country area. I think this is going to be a battle. I think this is going to be probably a game that at the end of the day comes down to the last kind of drive or two. I wouldn't be surprised if it's low scoring. Both defenses really good. We chatted with Manning Snyder about the Citadel back in hour one. Willie Eubanks, their linebacker, this dude could be a second or third round pick. This guy is going to play in the NFL. The front seven's really good. The secondary, obviously, with Javonte Middleton in there, you have a playmaking element. I know Mercer, has had some turnover, a little bit of kind of a rotation at quarterback, and that makes me a little bit nervous. So I think the Citadel wins this one close. Maybe low scoring, fun. This is going to be compelling back and forth, but I trust that Citadel defense. Give me the Dogs over the Bears in Macon.
Mercer defense allowed 33.5 points a game. Citadel's coming in at 24.75 points per game. BJ, I do like Willie Eubanks. Obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing Javonte get out there and do what he does. Jalen Adams, redshirt sophomore, 5'10", 165-pound quarterback for them Citadel boys. He's going to be hard to stop, BJ. When you see things like, hey, man, Mercer's going to have to play better defense, it will not start tomorrow. Give me them boys from the Citadel. Get a big dub.
I think very close, but I think Citadel a little bit better. I think Drew Cronick's got Mercer on the right track in his first year. Some of the things he's trying to implement in that program, but I think Citadel going to be a little too much for those Bears who are trying to bear down there in Macon. But give me Citadel in a close ball game there as we look at the SoCon. Going to just talk football and games that actually count here at the end of February going into March.
Oh man, absolutely. And obviously this spring season is unprecedented and is due to terrible circumstances. But the fact that you're able to have this is really great. Really happy for these student athletes that have put in a lot of work and have gone through, again, kind of the unimaginable. And these are really good football teams, people. FCS, Division I FCS, this is Division I football. It's the FCS level. And Furman is a top 10 team in the national polls. Wofford is a top 20 team in the national polls. Over the last couple of years, you've seen ETSU, East Tennessee, in the top 25. You've seen Furman knocking on the door of the top 25. You've seen Chattanooga in the top 25. So this is really good football. Check it out, ESPN Plus. I think you can see these games, and we'll have coverage on Southern Pigskin. But from the from the local guys, Ben, from the guys out of the 912, and really all over the state of Georgia. The SoCon recruits the state of Georgia really heavily to the programs with incredible history and tradition, like the Citadel and Wofford and Samford. I mean, you see guys play on Saturday in this league, go on and play on Sundays. Who was the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers when Big Ben was out? Devlin Hodges. That's Devlin Hodges out of Samford. Again, Andre Roberts, who was at the Citadel not long ago, just made the Pro Bowl for I think the Buffalo Bills is a return specialist. So you're talking about programs that have put guys in the NFL. I know Brad Hoover back in the day with the Carolina Panthers out of Western Carolina. Chattanooga's had a number of guys move on to the league. Terrell Owens, and then most recently, I think Buster Screen as a defensive back is in the NFL. So really good football. Check it out. If you're missing football like we do every spring, this is a great chance to scratch that itch.
Oh yeah, listen, I'm looking forward to the SoCon. I was blessed enough to be able to play with one of them Sanford boys. Old Corlin Finnegan. Got a chance to play with him when he came out of Sanford. Really, really scrappy. But I think this is a SoCon's moment, BJ and Kevin, when you look at the fact that patience is not something that's preached a lot when you talk about young student athletes having to wait their turn. But I believe they're ready for this moment. I believe you're going to see some really, really good football. And we are in desperate need of football. We're not selling for the SoCon. We are blessed to have the SoCon. These young boys going to go out there and make it happen. Looking forward to Saturday.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We're streaming live at ESPNCoastal.com. Good to have you along here on 3 and Out on this Friday. Glad you were with us, Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Thanks for joining us here on the program. Again, if you missed any portion of the show, you can go to espncoastal.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and get a podcasted version of the show there as well. Also, don't forget, go to espncoastal.com. Right now, we are having a giveaway for business. One lucky business going to win a Brave sponsorship here in 2021. And again, I know a lot of folks have been through some hard times. Everybody's a hard time, and we appreciate folks sticking with us. And again, just an opportunity for us to give back and allow someone an opportunity to promote their business all season long with the Braves. If you have a business you would like to sign up, go to espncoastal.com, fill out a quick registration, and we're going to draw that business on the 24th of March, right before I think it's the last game of the Grapefruit League, about a week before opening day there for the Braves. So looking forward to that. If you have a business you would like to register, go to espncoastal.com and register that business for your chance to win. Again, absolutely free Brave sponsorship for the season here in 2021. So as we head into the weekend, we'll have some Braves baseball for you on Sunday. Our first look at the 2021 version. BJ and Ben, a little football this weekend as well. So a lot on the sports calendar to get to, and we're in the home push to the NBA All-Star break next weekend. So I know a lot of teams cramming in games here this last week or so to go.
And when you think about Brave spring training, you normally think about, hey, the weather's starting to warm up a little bit and I can get outside. And not that long ago, it was like 7 degrees, but warm yesterday, warm today. I think it's supposed to be in the 80s, potentially in the 80s this weekend. So if you go outside and you're out and about and on Sunday you hear some Braves baseball and the sun is shining, that's what it's all about, right?
It is Braves baseball, SoCon football. You're getting ready for the All-Star game. That's why you love sports. Then Jason Tatum got added to the All-Star game. Not Trae Young. Stop hating on Trae Young, man. He plays for one of the best organizations that haven't won the championship yet. Yeah, I said it.
Well, Ben, I agree with you there, but let me ask you this about this weekend. When folks are out bird watching, what specific birds should they be on the lookout for out at the park this weekend?
This is canary season. It has canary season written all over it. If you see a canary, make sure you got your cameras out. Now,
a southeastern striped warbler. What would be the best place to try to find that? I think I don't know if that's an actual bird or not, but
I want to say somewhere that's real like misty, like more like the morning hours. You want to get out there in the morning hours when it's real misty out. Morning or late afternoon. Watch out for the pigeons though.
Confirmation from Cody, a warbler is a bird. Thank you very much.
Every
once in a while, why would I know that?
To my Cody who's scared to touch fish?
Yep, our co-host who doesn't like fish won't touch it.
Yeah, Cody cannot have one of those hats until he touches a fish.
Yeah. Man, get that fish away.
I ain't touching no fish. Tell you right now.
That being said, we will see you on Monday. Appreciate you joining us. Thanks to Chris Domino for joining us, and Manning Snyder joining us from SouthernPigskin.com here on 3 and Out. Again, ESPNCoastal.com. Get a podcast version, YouTube, Spotify, and more. We'll see you Monday, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network, on Twitter at Pigskin Radio.